on a specific book, I have a folder for that book, and so then I keep different Word docs in that book in that folder for each kind of research I've done, and then I have the pictures that I take in that folder too. So that way, for that particular book, it's in that one folder, so it's all together.
You're unorganized.
No, well, I actually.
We don't have to be organized. We're authors.
I'm not that. Yeah, I'm not that organized. No, I don't, because I don't outline before I start writing. I'm like, you've heard the pantser versus plotter. I'm the extreme pants end of that spectrum. So my research actually tends to also be piecemeal like that. Like I'm writing and then I'm like, I need to know about this, and then I'll go off and research it and come back. So the research actually mostly winds up actually being in the manuscript, and then kind of chopped down as I go and edit and stuff. And then but I also I do have a folder on my computer with stuff if I need to save extra things. But yeah, it's not a very organized process.
And the neat thing about Google Streets is you can take screenshots of those and save them to your hard drive, so you can actually see later. You don't have to go back to that spot. You can actually save it.
I'm not very well organized either, but it kind of works for me. I have things like notebooks, handwritten. I have files on my computer. I do some for Pinterest. But it works for me, being disorganized like that. But I don't know if I recommend it to anyone else.
I think with research, you just sort of need to do what works for you, really. Your files, your this, that, hard drives. If I had my way, I'd be one of those crazy people with walls of just things that I've researched. Like I would be a crazy person. But I'm not allowed to do that because apparently the paint in my bedroom is expensive. And I'm not allowed to ruin it. Or that's the excuse I'm told. But I think really I find that you're taught how to do research in elementary school, middle school, high school. I find those methods are pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty piecemeal, but I also rewrite my manuscripts 4 times. So it can get added, and it's why I prefer to do a lot of my research on a mobile device, because I don't sit at a desk. I'm a person who has to travel. I have 3 places where I write constantly. So you find what works for you. Google Docs is great for me to keep some of my stuff, my pictures, my everythings. The only thing I don't carry on there is my music, and that's on my phone. You had your hand up forever. Did you have something? Yeah.
Kind of going back to one of the earlier questions, when you said talking to police or experts on a topic, how do you broach asking a police officer or professor or expert on a topic for help, I guess? Because I'd kind of be embarrassed. Oh, by the way, I'm working on a fantasy novel. I know you're an expert on this topic, but I just want to make sure I get this right. How do you approach that professionally without kind of stepping on their toes?
For me, it was kind of easy because I was a reporter for about 8 years. So I knew a lot of police officers that I had to interview, and mayors and town councilmen and stuff like that. So it was easy to go up and just say, hey, how does this work? That kind of thing. But everybody else has different ways.
I had a friend who just approached a cop at a coffee shop one time, just because the cop was there and he had a question on something about his story, and the cop was really nice about it. He's like, I'm a writer. He said that, I'm a writer and I'm writing this scene and I needed a question, and the guy it was a 3-4 minute conversation. So like Jim was saying, it's like most people really like to talk about their jobs. So
you would be really amazed when the phrase "I'm a novelist" comes out, what people will say to you next.
It's true.
For example, one of the first signings I ever did was in I was there again for like 45 minutes hanging out, doing this, just sitting at my table. And someone just ran up and was like, oh, you're a novelist. Well, my sister and I do this sort of crazy, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What do you think about writing that for me? Do it yourself. But that's not what I said, but you know, you'd be amazed when you say, I am a writer, what comes out of somebody's mouth. And really, one of the best ways to do this is network. Conventions really are amazing places to network. You'd be amazed who you can pick up, who you're going to find, who's willing to talk to you.
If being a writer, being on LinkedIn, I've become friends with a lot of police officers, sheriffs, different things like that, and they're a great resource to talk to, as well as scientists and other people. Anybody I can think of that I'm going to need in a book, I kind of friend them on LinkedIn. I connect to them, and you know.
You'd be really amazed. And a lot of times, actually, even police departments will just send a general email. Will be polite enough to be like, well, if you want to talk to so-and-so about this. Part of it is because we've moved on to DIY media, which is if you want to do something, you don't need a publisher anymore. You don't need a record company. You can put it on YouTube. You can put it on Amazon with little to no cost. Part of that is the case. And also the rise of things like, as we call it, the murder channel. Investigation Discovery is the murder channel, by the way, just so in case anyone needed to know. It's the murder channel, because it's what they talk about, murder. People become really interested in that thing, so yeah, and that kind of topic, and you're going to want to talk to police, and police are starting to get more comfortable about it. I just would gauge on that. And you'd also be amazed what friends will have. I got a 45-minute lecture from a guy who works in a potato chip company about service arms because he has a service revolver. And he's my editor's husband, so weird.
The people who are stealing the potato chips?
Well, and like research into pistols and different things and revolvers are real easy if you go to a gun shop, because they'll tell you, they'll let you feel it, and you know, they'll tell you everything about it. When you feel the weight of the gun, it's totally different than when you talk about it, because it's different.
And when a friend let me hold a Civil War revolver, which is a long
right,
barrel, and I couldn't believe I understood balance at that moment because it should have been dropping in my hand.
Right.
So what other, we talked about doing sort of the physical informational research. Do we use research to be inspired by where we're going next with the series? Or our books, or anything else, or any other new projects?
A bit.
A bit?
Yeah, I'm working on a lot of things. So I'm working on a collection of short stories. It takes place in a garden in this really amazing palace. So I'm getting to look at the gardens of Versailles and layouts and all that. It's just because I think it's just really beautiful. So I was like, yeah, I want to do that because I just want to talk about this. Of course, there's real storyline and everything too, but. And I luck out my coworkers has a master's degree in botanical design, so I can just pick her brains and work on it. But I was really inspired by the amazing places.
Yeah, always places are a place. When you're doing your next novel, you're always looking for a place to set it at. So research is always a good thing for that as well.
Well, what I've discovered is I'll have the general where I'm going in the novel, but how we get there is kind of what I figure out along the way. And as I'm doing research, I've had several times where I've discovered connections between things, and decided that to use those connections to kind of strengthen the plot. Like, oh, well, I didn't know that Vlad the Impaler was at this city in this year, so I should I should use that because, you know, I have another character in that same city at this other time, you know. So I mean, it's stuff like that that I think is really cool when you can